Hey, welcome back to the channel today. We're going to talk about nuts and bolts of the single plane swing. This is part 5. We're going to discuss one of the most confusing aspects that most people find with this swing, the transition. So there's no better feeling knowing that when you wake up in the morning to go play golf, so that you're going to play well. There's no better feeling of hitting good golf shots down the fairway. So my mission today is to help as many people as possible wake up every day feeling good that they're going to go out there and play great because of the single plane swing. Hey, we've been talking about the nuts and bolts, the things that put the swing together to help you figure out how you can then develop your own perfect single plane swing. And one of the things that people get pretty confused about is how you transition from backswing into downswing. In the last segment, we talked about the backswing. But here's what's important about the last discussion. So if you haven't looked at that video, go back and review it, because what happens in the backswing translates to what happens in the downswing, the transition. Now, the transition is really how the club changes directions from the top of the swing into the downswing. But a lot of people tend to look at that as, well, okay, it's an upper body thing where the arms go back and they start coming down. Well, you have to look at the lower body and the position of the lower body to really understand how you move the lower body first in the sequence, so then the torso can move second. This is all about sequencing. And then you could accumulate lag. Lag is when the arms are behind the sequence of the torso, the pelvis, and the arms, and you lag the club, and then you generate speed. So all those things are part of this conversation where when we talk about setting the club at the top of the backswing, starting with the lower body, the torso's in position, the arms lag behind, and then you produce the speed that you want. So we got to talk about lower body movement. Now, in this discussion, I got to back up a step and talk backswing, because if you don't get the backswing correct, and this is why in a lot of the things you see me teach, I talk about the proper order of the way you learn the swing. For example, if your backswing is incorrect because of your lower body position, it's going to be very hard to sequence the lower body and get the downswing correct. So let's talk backswing a little bit. Let's talk about lower body positioning, and then we'll talk about transition. Now, I'm going to kind of just give you kind of my take on what I like to feel in the backswing, and what's actually really occurring. When I set up and I get into the top of my backswing position, what's critically important to me is that I've braced around my trail leg, that I've braced around this trail leg. Now, you can see there's an angle to this leg, and I can brace against it. I'm putting pressure on the inside of the leg at an angle. See this angle? That would be the opposite as if I was over top of that leg. There's no angle in that leg. When I have this angle, and I call it A-framing the lower body, you can see that I've framed up the body, but look what happens. When I have this pressure on the leg, I can easily push from the inside of my leg the pelvis that direction. And you can just stand up and experiment with your position. If you're over this leg, if your weight's on top of this leg, you can't push in that direction of the target. If I brace against the leg, I can push in the direction of that target. This is where I'm not a big fan of weight shift, because people talk about shifting the weight. And to me, that's a very lateral, linear thing, shifting. That's why I don't like that term, because you're rotating against the inside of this leg so that you can push. If you move laterally and shift, then you have to shift back. And so I like pressure. I like to think about more of a pressure on the inside as you rotate. So watch, when I'm turning, I got pressure on the inside of the leg, and now that little move right there is the initiation of the lower body in the transition. So let's add that now to the top of the backswing. So you're going to see now when I get to the top, and I've made the correct position of the body, I can then transition, and then that little transition then allows me to make the downswing. Now, let's talk about what happens when I make that transition, because this is kind of part 2 of this. The purpose of bracing on the inside of that leg is what I call stabilization. You're stabilizing the body to rotate to the top. In order to move the body, you have to stabilize one part to move another. So I rotate, I stabilize here, and then I move again, and then I rotate. But what's happening is I'm stabilizing again, see? So I'm rotated, I stabilize, and then I rotate again, the upper body, and then I can release the club. Stabilization into the knee. Now, this is why I want the foot to have a slight rotation to it. That doesn't mean you can't be stable with this foot, but notice how the leg has to straighten, and that's a different form of stability. When people don't have rotation in the foot, it'll put pressure into the back, pressure into the spine, and then put pressure into that pelvis, and sometimes this can cause back issues. What I want to see is a rotation of the foot, so when I'm braced here, and then I transition, see that stepping move? See how my knee is flexed towards my toe? It's not unstable, it's just a move where I stabilize. Now, that braces again, see I like that word bracing, where I can then rotate very quickly and move the arms. You see how the transition is being produced from two very important things. One, the proper backswing position, and two, the bracing into that knee. That is right there the transition. Let me hit one, and you're going to see that happen now in this motion. So, and it's subtle. I don't want to think that what I don't want you to do is this, go back and start shifting like that. That's not correct either. What's correct is brace, stabilize. Brace, stabilize. And it's not a massive movement. It's a very subtle thing, but stabilization is the key to that. Now, I want to point out one final thing before I let you go. When I'm bracing on that trail leg, I'm on the inside of the foot. So I'm on the inside of the knee, inside of the foot. And I see a lot of people get on the outside of the foot. Now, this is a problem because I can't push the pelvis. When you brace on that leg, I want the pressure on the inside of right here on the inside of your leg, in the knee, on the inside of that foot. And I want the foot not to move any way this direction at all. So now you can feel that push and you can practice that little movement. Anyway, that's transition. I didn't talk about arm movement yet. That in the next segment, we're going to talk about how the arms then move in the downswing once you get the lower body moving. Hey, if you're enjoying nuts and bolts and all the single plane content here on my channel, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and give me a thumbs up, and leave your comments. I want to hear what you have to say about the single plane swing.